And I walked in and I remember looking up and I said, Lord, I said, I don't have a plan. I said, I'm really not excited about this. I said, there's no hope. There's definitely not any faith. And I said, all I can do is say, yes, here I am. So on this path back to the coffee, I had about, enough money in the bank to last 2 months. So I went and took out a small loan that, I mean, in reality, it had been about 6 months of survival time. And I remember walking in the very first day back at the coffee when it's like, this thing's got to pay the bills. And I walked in and I remember looking up and I said, Lord, I said, I don't have a plan. I said, I'm really not excited about this. I said, there's no hope. There's definitely not any faith. And I said, all I can do is say, yes, here I am. This is where you want me to be. And part of me felt like he's gonna finish the work of humility for me in all this. Uh, but I didn't care anymore. You kind of get to a place in life where you just don't care. It's like, if it crushes me, whatever. I'm going to trust that you're good and that you know best and that it's going to be good. Wasn't scared, just kind of told my wife, it's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Whatever happens. And here's the, man, the miracle is that my wife is so supportive, man. She is so, and she's like, I have peace about this. I feel like it's what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, man, she is an angel. Um, Shout out to her. But so I get this. I start talking on a partnership with some good friends of mine. So back in, I'd created something in my first trip around the coffee, my first, timing. I'd created something to where the intention was to help missionaries who were serving abroad to create a passive income to help them with fundraising because um, man, it always bothered me that their source of income came solely from asking people for money, and it's like, man, this would be a cool opportunity. And so I ran it with a few of them for a few years, and it just never really seemed to pan out, or the grace never seemed there. So um, I've never been a good salesman. Um, it's not me, and so I mentioned to my sister-in-law, she was friends with Jason and Brooke Smith at Cog Hill Farms, and mentioned to her, I said, look, I said, do you think they'd be interested in something like this? And I was describing it to her, and she said, oh man, I don't know, but I'll reach out to them. And so she reached out to them, and they were excited, and I was excited that they were excited, and um, but thinking and just kind of running through how much coffee we could move and all this, I was like, man, I don't know if I can fulfill it without equipment. And so I remember sitting there and thinking, all right, if I buy these pieces of equipment, it'll increase my production. And it was before anything was finalized, and I was sitting there, and the fear started coming. It's like, Ryan, you're about to, you had enough money to pay yourself 2 months. You go buy that equipment, you're gonna have enough money to pay yourself 1 month. And I remember thinking, like, I'm not going to be ruled through fear anymore. I'm gonna step out in faith. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I know the logical thing is you wait for the sales, then you buy. But it was just like, you know, I, I'm not going to let fear rule me in this. And so I went and bought it, and not knowing what really would happen. And So I remember the month that I was going to have to start paying myself out of debt um, was the month we started doing the partnership with Cog Hill, and it literally it was enough to where I could pay myself, and from there on out, it has been enough. So it's really just a testimony of the faithfulness of God. It's like, I guess, why am I why am I making this video? It's for me, it's really just to share with people, my testimony. It's like wherever, if you have faith, if you have a different faith, if you don't have faith, it really doesn't matter to me. It's for me, it's personally, it's where I find peace. It's just to hear the story, and if it stirs something in your heart, I'm glad. If you think I'm crazy, I'd probably enjoy having a beer with you. We'd have fun. But part of the reason I'm doing this, and I'm going to start doing some videos. When For years I've had people tell me, it's like, Ryan, you need to be a preacher. When I was in construction at 23, 24 years old, framing houses, I had a roofer who was like, and he was lost as they come. Nice guy, good guy, but just lost. And he would do it as an insult, but he'd call me preacher man. And I think back in the Bible where God used people who weren't believers to call out what people were, um, who his children were, what their destiny was. And so, in the construction round two, I guess, project manager, man, people would be like, wherever you start preaching, let me know. I'm going to go. And I'm like, man, y'all don't know if I have to go work at a church, I'm going to meet Jesus face to face, because that isn't for me. And then, when I was working at the nonprofit, I had two instances where one lady, I love her to death. She was a secretary there, man. Just you could see the fruit of Jesus in her life. And she looked at me and she said, Ryan, you missed your calling. And I started laughing. I said, what do you mean? And she said, you're supposed to be a minister. And I'm like, no. And then I'm in some country town in the middle of nowhere, Linden, Alabama, even smaller than Selma, doing some entrepreneurial thing. And I had some random one, 80-year-old lady, and she looks at me and said, are you some kind of missionary or minister? And I said, no. And she said, well, you sure should be, or something like that. And I'm just like, man, y'all don't understand this. That's not what I want to think about going and sitting in a church office. I'm like, ugh. But I laugh, because a lot of times the Lord will call things out in you through other people. You just have to be listening. But I laugh because I'm like, Lord, you evidently people are saying this, but I'm seeing it as you saying, hey, boy, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And then you stick me in isolation in my cave. I mean, look at this place. Doesn't it give cave vibes? And so, I see this as being a tool to really just. I've had a lot of stories where you're living life, and then Jesus enters into random life, into bar rooms. When you're an idiot, when I was an idiot running around at 1 a.m. in a bar room, it's like the Holy Spirit would just boom, and he would just change the dynamics. And so there's been a lot of stories like that in my life, in the workplace, doing construction, like opportunities, like seeing the story where David had Saul under his knife and he took a piece of his cloak, and he didn't. The Lord gave him the opportunity to judge him and to enact justice. And David said, no, I'm not going to do this. And real life stories where these things in the Bible, they happen today. And it always comes through conversation with people, but it's just opportunities to help people. And so that's the reason. And so I hope you guys enjoyed have enjoyed this little video clip. You can give me feedback if you want. If you tell me, Ryan, it sucks, I'll be like, thanks. If you enjoyed it and said, man, I really appreciate hearing, let me know, because this is new to me. But, thank you for your time. This is really kind of fun. But, in life, if you could take anything from this whole video, I hope you're encouraged and to choose faith over fear. Thank you.